Sanding a table like this will take a lot of time, so I want to see if I can save time by using a polyshade to cover over scratches along the legs and the band that goes around the base of the tabletop. The tabletop is too bad. I will have to sand that down to get everything off of it and have a clean slate to have a nice finish. And while I'm going to stain that, I'm going to have to also match it to my polyshade. So we've got some challenges here. Let's see if my ideas work and if I can save time, or if by the end my piece looks worse off than I started. I'm Sarah. I've been flipping furniture and have redone a few rooms in my house, but I have so many projects I want to learn how to do. I'm usually figuring things out as I go and learn from a lot of mistakes, but I'm so excited to see all these ideas I have come to life and to get to share them with you. So, welcome to my channel. All right, as we get started, I'm going to get as much off of this tabletop as I can with a degreaser. This is Simple Green. There's others out there that work well as well. Once I get what I can off with that, I'm coming in with a chisel. It's a wood chisel to pop off these I don't know if it's epoxy. It's just these clear puddles that are on the tabletop, and I don't want to have to sand that off, and they pop off very easy with the chisel. So that's a quick and easy way to get that off, but it still left residue. So I got my carbide scraper and I'm scraping any other bumps and things that stick up off the tabletop. So once I got that all cleaned off, I'm coming in with a sander, and this took a long time. I ended up coming in and using some citrus strip because I was not able to break through the finish on this table easily with sandpaper. And it required almost a whole container just to get all of this off. I always let it sit, cover it in plastic, and then scrape it off with just a plastic scraper to get as much off as I can. And then I have to go in and clean it up. This time I used mineral spirits and a scrubby pad and scrubbed that all over the table, and then I let it dry. And then once it was dry, I came in again and scraped off as much as I could with the carbide scraper, which would be my preference if I could have done it all with the carbide scraper, but it wasn't working. Could be I need to sharpen my carbide scraper, but it wasn't doing the trick. So I come back in with my sandpaper and was able to knock it out. I just took my time and did it over a few different days because honestly, it gets boring to just sand and sand and sand. But it feels really good to get that progress made. So once I got it all sanded, I need to go in with my steps. So I started off with a high, thick grit sandpaper of 100 grit, come in with my 120, sand the whole table down. Then come in with my 180, sand the whole table down. And then come in with my 220 and sand the whole table down. That got my tabletop ready for staining. With the sanding done, before I stain the top, I need to replace this piece that has broken off. I found a piece that was about the right width. I didn't have a way to safely cut a piece of wood down to the right width, so I just looked for something that I thought would work. And I could cut that to the correct length. That was easy. If I had a table saw, I think I could safely cut something down, but I don't. The piece underneath was also too wide. As you can see, it sticks out and it needed to be flush or underneath the piece that I'm gluing it onto. But again, I don't have something to safely cut a small piece of wood. So I just went in with my 120 grit sandpaper and just slowly, patiently sanded the side down until it got skinnier and skinnier so it would hide underneath the main piece and be a replacement of the piece that broke off underneath. So once that was good and I felt like things were flush, I could glue those pieces together and create a piece to put back on. But I did realize that when the piece that was there broke off, some wood splintered and made the backside uneven. So in order to get a flat backside, I just took my chisel by my hand and could very easily just kind of pop some of that build up off to give myself a flat surface to work with. Then I needed to round out the edges of my very sharp-edged piece of wood so that it kind of looked like the rounded edges of the piece that I'm trying to mimic. And so here you can see it's close. It's not quite as wide, but I think it should work. With that little piece assembled, I'm ready to stain the tabletop and that little piece all at the same time. To get the table ready to stain though, I need to clean it up really good so I get a nice even stain. So I'm wiping it down with water to get the dust off, a lightly damp cloth. I'm going in also with Q-tips and cleaning out all the little crevices and holes in between the table where the table locks in with each other so that those are cleaned up. I don't want dust and mess getting in my stain and in my top coat. So it's important to get this really clean. And the last step of really cleaning my wood is using some mineral spirits. And this will help just get some oil, anything that's oily and or residue, just anything off so that I don't have random spots. So with the mineral spirits, I need to let that air dry. And once that is done air drying, I'm ready to come in with a pre-stain to get the wood ready to receive the stain, and again, so I have a nice even finish. And when the whole table has the pre-stain on it, I come back and just wipe off any excess. And that needs to set for, I think, at least 15 minutes before I go in with the stain to get the wood ready. But once it's set for 15 minutes, I'm ready to come in with my stain. I've been loving my early American stain, and I was convinced it would be very close to the band around the table and the legs, and that I wouldn't have to sand and stain the base. I've done that before on a table and it worked great. I'm still using it, and so I thought I just need to stain the top and I can get away with it. And this stain was pretty close, but it wasn't an exact match. But I did stain the little piece so that matched before I glued it on to the band. To glue it onto the band part, it wasn't too hard, but I realized that even though I chiseled some of the wood off, it still wasn't sitting flush. So I came out and got some Bondo and tried to make it a flat surface to glue onto because I wanted it to hold on well. And that took some finagling and just working around with the Bondo. It hardens quickly, so you have to work fast, but that's also nice because you can come back and sand it and glue onto it relatively quickly. So within an hour, you can get this part of the project done. So once I had that sanded and I felt like it would fit okay, I just used some wood glue and clamped it on and let it sit. Now this I do let sit overnight, but that's fine because at this point I need to figure out what I'm going to do with the band and the legs. So with these legs, I had a progression of ideas. First, I thought maybe I can clean them up and just put them back on and it'll look fine. I'll be able to match the top to the bottom. It'll be fine. But after they were cleaned up and dried, I realized they're way too scratched. That's not going to work. So I thought, let me go get my markers, my stain markers, and maybe I can just cover over them. There's not that many, and I didn't feel like this was deceptive. I don't want to flip a piece and sell it as fresh and that be a lie. But there was just a few scratches, and I figured it's not worth my time. I will not get money out of my time to sand the base and the legs. It will take so much time, and I'm not going to get any more money for this, whether it matches perfectly or if I just cover over scratches. So I'm trying to be smart with my time now and do a good job, but not drive myself crazy with perfection when it's not necessary to still have a good product. So after I filled in all the scratches, it looked okay, but then I realized the tabletop doesn't match the base. And maybe putting a clear poly would fix that, but it might not. I know in the intro I told you how or what I did to make this match and everything, but at this point in the process, I didn't have a solution yet. So as I was thinking about it and looking the table over, I realized the underside had gotten mold, which our garage is pretty damp. It's in a kind of damp area of the yard. So I treated that with spraying some vinegar on it, let that sit, and then wiped it off. I did actually have to come back later before the table was completely finished, or after the table was finished, and treat it again for less, but I'm going to keep an eye on that. Anyway, so as I was looking the piece over and thinking about what to do, I thought that the legs looked kind of more like an antique walnut stain, than the Early American that I used. And I thought, well, I'll just go to the store and I'll get antique walnut and I'll put that over top this Early American that I already used, and it'll hopefully cover those spots. You can see where the filler was used originally when this was first made and it didn't stain very well. I'm thinking it'll help cover that. It'll be fine. I'll make it match. But I also have in the back of my mind that my legs don't, the legs on the table don't really look great. Like, I'm spending all this time to make the top look great, but the legs don't look great. But I don't want to spend more time. You've watched 10 minutes into the video and all I've gotten is a tabletop done and that piece fixed. So it's like, I don't want to put more time into this if I don't have to. But I've already started, so I need to finish well. So while at the hardware store, turns out that the antique walnut stain that I wanted is a polyshade. And I've used it before. It's harder to use. I was not excited about using it. But as I was looking at the can and reading about the polyshade, it said you can use this over top a top coat that already exists. And I thought, well, if I pick a color and stain both the tabletop and the legs, and it has to be a polyshade because that's the only thing that can go over a top coat that already exists, then maybe I don't need to worry about exactly matching the top to the legs. I can just use one color to make it cohesive and at the same time cover the scratches. In thinking about it, I decided to go with a darker color than the antique walnut, hoping that the dark color would fix those spots that you still see and really blend the two colors that are mixed, not matching, and cover all the scratches. So I'm taking a gamble at this point. I've never done this before. But according to the can, it should work. At least the sticking on top of a previous coat, matching the colors is not guaranteed. So I brought it home and we're going to give it a whirl. Now, when putting on the polyshade, it is more finicky than just using a polyacrylic. So I was very meticulous in putting this on to make sure that the color looked like it was blending well as best I could see, that the poly part of it was smooth, that there's no drips around the edges. Like, it was very meticulous and kind of time consuming. So did I save time? I don't know, but this is what we're going with, and we're going to find out if this works. Like, I want to know, can you do this for future projects? Can I use a polyshade to kind of cheat is maybe a negative word, but make a product good without spending lots and lots of time if it's not too badly beat up. The legs and the band were not badly beat up. The tabletop was. So the tabletop got the full treatment. The band and legs don't need a full treatment. After I got the tabletop done, I decided to start doing the polyshade on one side of the table and realized that it wasn't sticking very well. And sure enough, looking at the can, it says to scuff sand or lightly sand before you apply. And I'm like, duh. Every time I do a polyacrylic top coat, I sand between coats to help with adhesion and getting any bumps off. So I stopped after doing that one band part and realized I cannot go and sand the rest of the band because the top's still damp and I don't want the dust getting in the top. So I had to just stop with the tabletop. And you can see it went on pretty good. I was pleased. I was nervous that it wouldn't work so great, and it went on pretty well. Being meticulous is very important, especially along the edges. So I took the legs outside away from the table so I could sand those down and do like the light scuff sanding and get them ready for the polyshade, which is funny. It sanded off a lot of the marker that I did, at least on the corners. So I was like, well, now we know. Don't bother with markering on the corners of a table leg. It's just going to get sanded off. So wipe those down with a damp cloth. And while those sat up to dry, you can see how the table looked as it was setting up, and it's very bubbly. And that's disappointing, but I think I can do a second top coat and get that out. No guarantee, but I think I can do that. So I came in and just like the tabletop, I very carefully did the polyshade because you're watching two things. You're watching the color blend and you're watching for drips of the poly. You don't want buildup. and you want to get it nice and smooth. And it didn't go on as thick on the legs as it did on the tabletop. So the legs will definitely need a second coat, but it already appears the tabletop will need a second coat anyway. So after that's dried for a day or so, I'm coming back and can scuff sand the band, and then I can wipe that down and give everything a second coat. I did scuff sand the tabletop to get that ready, and I think I scuff sanded too harsh. After the second coat was on, there were still some scratches. So get that second coat on everything, and then I came back and with a damp cloth and just looked it over, and the tabletop needed a more top coating. So I went ahead and did just the plain clear polyacrylic top coats on top of the table, because it needed a good solid finish, especially because I scuff sanded a little too intense. So got 2 coats of that on to finish this off, and everything got 2 coats of polyshade. The legs and the band did not need the polyacrylic. That was fine. Just the tabletop needed the 2 coats of polyacrylic, and I think it turned out pretty great. I was happy with the way this solution is looking. So let's look back though at where we started, and you tell me, do you think that this polyshade was worth it? Do you think it worked? Do you think this looks good? I think I would pick a lighter color. You can still see some of the spots where I covered dings and nicks, but most of them you can't even tell. And the table came together pretty well. The place where I added that little piece, you can see a gap, so it was not big enough to cover that space that was needed, but it's there, and it looks better than if it wasn't there. So I think it's fine. I used to make myself stressed about these pieces having to be perfect, like everything perfect, and I'm like, you know what? You buy furniture from the store and it's not perfect. It looks really nice. It should be scratch-free, but is everything perfect? No. And it's a piece of art. There's some striping in the top, and maybe I would have preferred to not have that, but it's there, and that's what the material produced. And so let me know what you think, if you would have done this, if you have any tips or tricks in using polyshade or refinishing furniture. I'd love to hear it. I'm always wanting to learn and better my craft. So thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, here's some other videos that YouTube would recommend to you and I think you might enjoy, and I'll hope to catch you in another video.